What up, twins? How we doing? How we doing? Homies, twins, all the people. What's up? So I'm on a new phone now. If the camera looks clear and all the things, I'm on a new phone now. Got the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I hadn't upgraded my phone in a minute. All that to say, it was kind of crazy. So I was going to get my phone, and it took a little bit longer than I thought it would. Oh my goodness, what a bump. It took a little bit longer than I thought it would. And I was meeting this guy for lunch to talk about prison ministry stuff, because I'm looking into that and praying through all those possibilities and all this cool stuff, right? And I was gonna meet him at 11:30, but things went a little long with my phone, because I have like 22,000 pictures. So it took like, it took like a solid 2.5 hours to transfer from my 14 or whatever to this one. So I told him, this guy's name is Mr. Wailon, and I was like, yeah, Mr. Wailon, I don't think I'm gonna be able to meet. Sadly, I gotta sit here with my phone. And then he was like saying the same thing, things weren't gonna work out for him. But then he was like, hey, actually let's run it, like let's meet at 11:45. So I just leave my phone there at the Verizon store, and I just go, we went to Sonny's, and he told me he was gonna be at Sonny's. He said he was on the way, he'd be there in like 10 minutes basically. And I go to Sonny's, and I don't have my phone though. And like, bro, it was the weirdest thing ever, not being able to, I didn't realize how much I relied on something like that. And not being able to have access to just call him or text him and be like, yo, bro, I'm here, standing out front, whatever. And so I stand out front for a little bit, and no Mr. Wailon. And I'm like, well, this is weird. I also don't have track of time. I have no clue if it's been 5 minutes or 15. So I go back to my car and try and get on my MacBook and connect to some Wi-Fi to be able to text him. I'm like, you know what? This ain't gonna work out. Let's just go back out front and wait for him. And from what I can tell, the time frame of me leaving to go look at my MacBook, basically the time frame that I left to go get my MacBook was when he walked in the door and went and sat down. And so it took me like an extra 5 to 10 minutes to be able to find him and go hang out with him and for him to pour into me and all this stuff. And if I would have just been standing in the spot waiting for him where he told me that he was going to be, we would have just been good. But instead I was like so confused, and like I knew he was going to be there. I couldn't not have access to something to reach out to him to tell him where I was at, even though he knew where I was going to be. And then I walk inside after like 5-10 minutes, and then he's sitting there and he'd been waiting on me the whole time. And just that, it made me really think, like, how often do we do that in our faith? When God tells us exactly what's going to happen, or speaks to us in a way of like, bro, you are going to find comfort and rest in me. Nowhere else will you find that. You are going to find the deepest, most satisfactory love ever in me. Nowhere else will you find that. And how often do we go to the other options to try and find it? And in the same way with Mr. Wailon, like, he told me he was going to be there, but for some reason I had to go try and hop on my MacBook to try and text him about when I'm going to be there and when he's going to be there, when we already talked about it and I already knew where he was going to be. And in the same way, I feel like how often do we do that in our faith? Like, God has told us that he loves us to the point to where he would send his son to die on a cross for us and take on a death and a penalty that we deserved, and he would stick it out and then decide to breathe again on the third day again to bridge the gap between us and God. We know he loves us. How often do we have to be reminded? We know that this guy, this Jesus guy, this carpenter from 2,000 years ago is the king of the universe and is worth following every single day for the rest of our lives with no questions asked. How often do we have to ask the questions? And I think it's just because we found so much insecurity in not having that metaphorical iPhone to be able to just continue to get the affirmation. Why can't we just trust God? Why can't we just lean into him? Why can't we just take him at his word? Why can't we just be confident if he said he's going to be at Sonny's at 11:30, he's going to be there at 11:30? And it was just such a realization to me today when like I said, I went to Sonny's and Mr. Wailon said he was going to be there, and for some reason I could not trust that, and I had to go try and hop on my MacBook on some random, you know how Xfinity has Wi-Fi everywhere. I had to hop on some random Xfinity Wi-Fi to be able to be confident in it when he had already spoken it and said he was going to be there. And then little do I know he was already inside waiting on me, because the time where I was supposed to be trusting, I was going to find the answer somewhere else, and then I missed him walking through the door. And how often, I've said how often like 3 times now, but isn't it crazy how if we look back at these moments in our lives, if we would have just been trusting instead of looking for the answer that we already know what the answer is, would we have not missed what we were supposed to be able to see, or God was supposed to be able to show us? And if we are standing in a place, I believe, and I think the Bible teaches, if we're standing in a place of trust and confidence and faith in God, based off what he has spoken to us, based off the things he's promised to us, instead of going to seek those things and those affirmations in other places, then we won't miss what he has for us. We'll be right there waiting for it. But to me, what I realized today, just because the time that I left to go seek the affirmation I already knew, Mr. Wailon walked in the door, and then we wasted about 10 minutes just sitting out there because we had no way to talk to each other. On the other side of things, if instead of trusting God, instead of leaning on the promises that you have gained from Scripture, but also that you've gained from him speaking to you and speaking through people to you, instead of leaning on those, if you run to try and find fulfillment in other places, if you run and try and find security and trust and confidence in other places, when you should be standing in a place of trust and faith in him, you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss it. He's gonna walk right into the door at Sonny's, and you're gonna be in your car on your MacBook trying to connect to some alternate server on Xfinity Wi-Fi to text him, and it's still not gonna work. Wow, I'm on my dirt road. That's crazy. But yeah, so just as an encouragement, bro, stand at the door at Sonny's even when you don't have your iPhone, because Mr. Wailon is on the way. Because he said he's going to be on the way. And like I said, in the same way, that applies deeply in our faith. Stand in the place that God has put you. Stand in the place that you are supposed to be in, and trust that if he said it, take him at his word. We can take him at his word. If this guy, if this Father, if this God that we serve was loving enough to send his son to die on the cross for us, then the least we can do is take him at his word on these little things that we go through day to day. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's confusing, but yeah, I just learned how messy and how confusing things can get when you start to doubt something that you already know is true. So just hold firm, hold fast in the truth of the gospel and of the things that God has promised to us in his word. And if he speaks something to you, don't let your mind, because man, our minds are so messed up, don't let your mind corrupt you and lead you astray from that. Stand firm in the truth that he speaks to you. Stand firm in his word. Stand firm in the gospel. And I promise you, Mr. Wailon he's going to be at Sonny's at the time frame he said he would be. And if you go to your car and you get on your MacBook trying to figure that out when you already know what's going to happen, you're going to miss him. So don't miss him. Fight to be present. Fight to live in the promises he's already given you. But yeah, that's just my quick encouragement. So something I realized today that was just really funny. But I love y'all so much. All the things and the places and the people. Yeah. Peace out, Rainbow Trout.